information is free.
The law.
There is hope.
It's a revolution! Get down on your knees and show some appreciation.
If this is true, we should listen and be grateful.
Welcome to today's broadcast of A View from the Nest. I'm your eye in the sky, Alan Scott, traveling across the cyberscape from high atop my perch at WNGS Studios, bringing you today's news and commentary from a conservative Christian viewpoint. You may wish to visit us on the web at www.eagleviews.org or follow us on Twitter at Eagle's Nest. Hi folks, Al Scott here, keeping a sharp eagle eye focused on current events, ever vigilant and standing ready to fight for faith, family, and freedom. A true moderate who believes that moderation is the key to freedom. No golden microphone here, just the values of the golden rule. And this is the way I see it. Well, it's time once again for another View from the Nest. I'm Al Scott, your host. Well, after 4 years of the Obama administration and stimulus plans and extension unemployment benefits, extension to the welfare rolls and all his ObamaCare and all these other programs that initiated, the economy still seems to be lingering along or languishing on his back. So Obama has a new plan to stimulate the economy. Remember when they said that if we give welfare payments as a direct stimulus to the economy, then unemployment checks are a direct stimulus on the economy. So the more people that are unemployed, the more checks that are being sent out of Washington is going to stimulate the economy. Well, how's that working out for us? Well, his latest scheme is to increase the minimum wage, because basically he says if we increase the minimum wage, then those low-income people will be making more money, which will then stimulate the economy. But could the actual opposite be true? The Congressional Budget Office recently released a report with an estimate of the economic effects of Obama's raising the minimum wage from $7.25 to $10.10 an hour. Now, they just arbitrarily picked these numbers. $10.10, why wouldn't it $10.20? Why not $10.25? Why not $25? Better yet, give everybody $50 an hour. That would definitely stimulate the economy. If the $3 additional an hour for low income earners is a stimulus, why not give a $30 an hour raise to the middle income earners? Wouldn't that stimulate the economy even more? The results have been generally viewed as a mixed blessing. On the one hand, CBO claims overall income would increase for most households at the low end of the income scale, but the increased income comes at a cost. 500,000 workers would lose their jobs. Now, of course, the CBO can only judge base their numbers on what they're given from Congress, and we remember what they said about the ObamaCare and how many policies would actually be lost. We end up 11 million people losing insurance while they're trying to cover 7 million that didn't have any. It seems to me they're going the wrong way. Well, I'm sure that the CBO analysis of the effects of the minimum wage on the economy is going to be worse than they're projecting here. Instead of 500,000 jobs being lost, it'll probably be more like 2 million or 3 million. But let's just go with their 500,000. The results are accurately only if CBO analyzes the minimum wage and its effects on the economy in a sensible manner. The key number in the CBO analysis is the elasticity of demand for labor. Economists use this term to measure the sensitivity of demand to a change in price. Thus, if the price of tomatoes increased by 20%, the demand would decrease by some percentage. If an elasticity is between 0 and -1, then the buyer will spend more for the product as the price increases. This obviously cannot hold forever because buyers run out of money, or they just decide they're not going to pay that higher price. CBO measures the elasticity of demand of labor at a paltry negative 0.1. The net result is that for any wage increase, CBO would find workers making more money and very few workers losing their jobs. With this assumption, it's not surprising the CBO finds that tens of millions of people would be better off if the minimum wage were raised by 39%. Employers and CBOs would still hire 96% of workers formerly making $7.25 an hour, even when the new wage rose to $10.10. Consumers would face higher prices, but they would not adjust spending down in a substantial manner, so says the CBO. Well, as it stands right now, when the minimum wage was raised last time, the cost of McDonald's hamburger has gone up, and as such, I don't spend as much time at McDonald's or spend as much money at McDonald's because I don't want to pay $8 for a Happy Meal that used to be less than $5. CBO concludes that real income in the economy would raise by $2 billion if the minimum wage were raised to $10.10 an hour. The report states that raising the minimum wage would increase demand for goods and service because, taken together, the second, third, and fourth direct effects will shift income from business owners and consumers as a whole to low-wage workers. Again, income redistribution. Now, how has this been working out? For the last 50 years, we've been redistributing income through welfare, Medicaid, Social Security, and all these other programs, and the rate of poverty hasn't changed. If you're going to give somebody more for doing less, they're not inclined to do more. They're going to continue to do less and expect to get more. Low-wage workers generally spend a larger share of each dollar they receive the average business owner or consumer does. Thus, when a dollar from business owners or consumers is shifted to low-income workers, overall spending increases. Why are they poor? Because they spend every dollar that they make. They get rid of it as fast as they can get it. So they're never going to change their standard of living because as fast as the money comes in, as fast as it goes out. Why? Easy come, easy go. But spending by upper income consumers helps to employ low-wage workers. The Labor Department's consumer expenditure data for 2012 showed that the highest fifth of income earners was responsible for 52% of spending on personal household services and 56% on fees and admissions to entertainment. These are all local businesses that employ low-wage workers. Reducing the incomes of the top fifth will result in less spending in these categories and less domestic employment. In contrast, the lowest fifth of income earners spend a higher than average percent of their income on apparel, footwear, and non-durables, which are more likely to be imported. A substantial percentage of goods sold at superstores, where low-income individuals tend to shop, are made overseas. In other words, Walmart, where a great deal of their products come from China. So we're definitely stimulating the Chinese economy by giving money to low-income workers. CBS states that the agency's estimations approach was similar to the one that is used to assess the effects of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, which I started out by saying is all that $1 billion or $1 trillion thrown at the economy. Well, most of it just went to crony capitalists. But anyway, all that money taken out of the economy, put back into the economy, didn't stimulate anything. After passing the stimulus bill in March 2009, letter to Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley predicted that the unemployment rate in the last quarter of 2009 would raise to 9% without the stimulus package, from its then current level of 8.2. With the stimulus, CBO said the unemployment rate would range from 7.8 to 8.5. The actual rate in December, 11 months after enactment of the stimulus, was 9.9%, far higher than CBO said it would be. CBO predicted that in the fourth quarter of 2010, the unemployment rate would be 8.7 without the stimulus, and between 6.8 and 8.1 with the stimulus. But the unemployment rate in the fourth quarter of 2010 was 9.6%. So much for SBO's estimation. Transfer of income from one group to another did not succeed in creating economic growth. If they did, why stop at 10.10? Why not go $15 an hour as fast food forward and the New York communities for change are demanding, or $24, the average wage in the economy. The CBO model shows that all wage increases benefit labor and the wage elasticity as invariant to the wage. There is substantial evidence to suggest that the employment disincentives of higher wages are greater than CBO admits. Different states have different minimum wages. Over the past year, the highest employment growth has been in states with minimum wages at the federal level rather than higher. Washington, D.C. City Council recently voted to raise the wage for incoming Walmart stores to $12.50 an hour. Mayor Vincent Gray vetoed the bill as a certain job loser. Had the mayor followed CBO's advice, Walmart would not have opened its stores in the District of Columbia, and 1,800 fewer people now working for Walmart would be unemployed. Washington, D.C. and 2 Maryland counties, Montgomery and Prince George's, will raise their minimum wage in 4 stages to $11.50 an hour. Beginning this summer, the biggest beneficiary will be the neighboring Commonwealth of Virginia, as the businesses will move to Virginia. Most Americans know that we compete in a global marketplace for practically everything, from manufactured goods to services of all kinds. China and other countries compete against America partly with lower wages. Raising wages in the United States will make Americans less competitive in the global marketplace. It acts the same way as a tax. If you want less of something, tax it. CBO analysis never mentions the relationship between wages and marginal productivity, the contribution of the worker to the creation of a product. Conventional economic analysis holds that wages will not exceed the economic contribution of workers to the product. CBO conclusions that approximately 96% of workers will keep their jobs, even with substantial increases in their wages, suggests that these workers have been underpaid. The only way this could be the case is if labor markets in the United States were profoundly out of balance. CBO presents no evidence that this is the case. Indeed, CBO does not address the millions of unemployed Americans who seek work, especially teens and low-skilled workers. This is evidence that entry-level wages are too high, not too low. CBO does not address the biggest losers of increasing the minimum wage, low-skilled teenage workers who will be denied the right to work in the United States, or, for the liberals' constituency base, the black labor market. They may be willing and able to provide a prospective employer with services that are worth $5 an hour or even $7 an hour. But if the hourly minimum wage raises to $10.10, they will miss the first rung on the career ladder for success. Because why would a company hire an unskilled worker when they can find someone that's unemployed that has skills to pay them that? Sitting idly unemployed, they may take solace in knowing that CBO calculated that they would be better off. Isn't that interesting? Just someone that's out of work looking for a job, it's not very comforting to know that you can't get a job because you've been priced out of the market. Another one of Obama's plans gone astray. President Obama and his allies have been selling his proposal as a free lunch, a policy that will raise pay for some with no cost for anyone. But we know all his other plans, everything that comes out of his mouth from the time he says hi to the time he says bye is a lie. Give America a raise. Proponents of raising minimum wage now must contend with a reputable, nonpartisan analysis that proposal has costs as well as benefits. Congress must decide whether higher wages for some are worth destroying jobs for others. See, it's not about that. It's about buying votes. It's about giving money from a productive class, because let's understand that government has no money. It all comes from us. They either have to take it from us, borrow it, that we have to pay for later, which is taking it from us, or print it. Okay, they don't create anything. They don't create wealth. They just take it from the productive class and give it to the non-productive class. And the people they target are the ones that they suspect will vote for them. So basically all this is buying votes for the next election, which is coming up, November? So because Obamacare was a big bust, now they have to come up with something else. So they're working on immigration and income inequality to get these people to vote for them once again in November, to keep them in office so they can keep messing up with the economy and keep sticking it to the little guy. But to all those who will become unemployed because of the higher minimum wage, take assurance that you won't be job locked. I'll be right back.
Well, I finally did it. I opened a 401k.
What? Why? Just wait for the inheritance. We've definitely got a rich uncle somewhere. We're one call away from the winner's circle at the Derby, dinners with multiple forks, a vacation home in the country, using summer as a verb.
You don't actually think that, do you?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
I'm a paramedic, and it may sound silly, but a lot of people are afraid to call 911 when they're experiencing uncomfortable pressure, fullness, squeezing, or pain in the center of the chest. Instead, people risk permanent damage or death because they're afraid they might get a lecture. To learn more about heart attack warning signs, call the American Heart Association at 1-800-AHA-USA1 or visit us on the web at americanheart.org.
Well, welcome back to View from the Nest. Al Scott here. You can follow us on Twitter at Eagles Nest, or go to our website at www.eagleviews.org. Next up, a sign the Obamacare insurance pool is not getting the healthy people to sign up. The Obama administration is now considering extending the Risk Corridor Program, a kind of government-operated reinsurance program for health insurers in the ObamaCare exchanges, beyond the 3 years stipulated in the law. And once again, Obama decided he's going to take out his pen, take out his telephone, and rewrite a law that was passed by Congress, well, the Senate and Democrats. He signed into law. Now he doesn't like that law. So instead of sending it back to Congress to have them rework the law, he just decides that he's going to skip this part, extend that part, ignore this part, add to it here, add an extension there, add an exemption there. So now we're looking at the reinsurance program, and the Obama wants to extend it beyond the 3 years stipulated in the law. If the administration is willing to put taxpayers on the hook for more insurer losses, it suggests the administration is seeing yet more problems with Obamacare, writes Megan McCardle. What the reinsurance program is basically the same thing as the mortgage debacle that caused the financial problems to begin with, where the government guaranteed these high-risk mortgages, debt securities, or this phony paper that the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac was passing around, guaranteed the banks that the government would pick up any losses, so therefore they kept writing this garbage paper, kept issuing high-risk loans to people they know weren't going to be able to pay them back, knowing that if they defaulted, the taxpayers would bail them out. Well, the same thing is happening now with Obamacare. Obama wants to make sure that the insurers, the insurance companies, of course they're pals, the big insurance companies that contribute to his campaign, wants to make sure that they're going to get paid whether the insurance programs work or not. In other words, all this has ever been, this is working the same way that Social Security is working, where money's being put into an account. All it is just tax money coming into the government that they're spending on all these stupid programs and giving money to whoever they feel like, withholding money to those they don't like, and they're spending the money as fast as it comes in. So this is just another way to take from you, take your money, your hard-earned, your property, your pursuit of happiness, take it from you and give it to somebody else, all in an attempt to control people's lives. But at the same time, when it turns around, now you paid into this program, but when it turns around, when you actually come and want to use the program, they're going to find all kinds of reasons why you can't use it, whether the procedure's not covered, or the medication's not covered, or your life expectancy, you're not likely to recover from the procedure, so therefore they're not going to pay. Same thing with Social Security. You get to a certain age and say, well, we're going to raise the retirement age, and we're going to raise the retirement age, so hopefully you're going to die before they have to pay, because they really don't have the money because they already spent it. So here we are, another scheme, another Bernie Madoff scheme, and they should release Bernie Madoff from jail because he looked like a saint next to these clowns. So Megan McCardle writes, the insurers have clearly been willing to lose money on these policies for a couple of years in order to help the exchanges get established. But with the rollout difficulties and the somewhat underwhelming enrollment numbers, they may be threatening to bolt lest they get some guarantee that they can sell policies people will actually be willing to buy. Well, they were selling policies that people were actually willing to buy. In fact, 85% of the population was very happy with the policies that they had bought and paid for. But Obama and his ilk decided that while these were subpar policies, they weren't good enough. So we weren't allowed to keep those policies, even though we were promised that we could keep them. If we liked our program, we could keep our program. Or if we liked our doctor, we could keep our doctor. Well, these wizards are smart, and Washington, D.C. decided that no, they weren't good enough, so we had to forfeit those policies and offer this junk that nobody wants, because if they wanted it, they'd be signing up to get it. So who were signing up to get it? Those people that are desperate, that really, really, really need it. So wouldn't it have been easier to have about 3 million people signed up? Wouldn't it have been easier just to find a way to insure those 3 million people and leave the rest of us alone? No, because it's not about insuring people. It's about departing us from our money. It's about taking our money, taking our property, and making us stewards of the state, making us subjects, not citizens. A risk corridor extension, in other words, extending this beyond 3 years, would help keep the price of policies down by funneling a backdoor subsidy to insurers. In other words, tax money. We're going to pay the insurance companies to insure people that aren't paying for the policies. So on top of the subsidies, the government's guaranteeing these or offering to these people of high risk to get them to buy the insurance. Now they're also giving a subsidy to the insurers to make them offer the insurance. So that's double dipping to us. And then we still have to buy and pay for our own insurance. So we're paying for our own. We're paying to subsidize those with high risks. And we're paying the insurance companies to insure those with high risk. This sounds like a workable plan, doesn't it? However, it would not keep the cost down. Indeed, it could have the opposite effect. With the administration subsidizing the lion's share of any losses, the incentive to control costs would be drastically weakened. Again, this is proven with the Medicaid and Medicare. When people don't actually have to pay for the services that they're using, they don't care what it costs. And therefore, because the costs are covered by the government or taxpayers, the people providing the services don't care what they charge either. It's making things worse, not better. But Obamacare promised that our premiums would go down by $2,400. They're going up by $5,000, $6,000. We're becoming a situation where we're actually insuring ourselves and paying money on top of that. Megan McCardle continues to write, with healthcare cost growth already running well above inflation in most years, this could be quite expensive. No kidding. Basically, the administration would be violating all the promises that were made about deficit reduction and cost control in a desperate bid to keep insurers on the exchanges. You know, what the insurers should do is to say, you know what? Forget Obamacare. We're going to go back to writing the policies that the people were willing to buy and pay for on an individual basis, the people with the money willing to pay. But no, now they have to come up with this convoluted, this crazy, stupid government bureaucratic nightmare, boondoggle, and make everybody's lives miserable. Besides, an extension would probably be illegal. Why? Because, like I said before, this law has already been written, already signed by the president, is already put into force. Now Obama is taking it upon himself to change it at a whim. All to try to win favor with, once again, a constituents base to vote for him. And I don't know. I mean, he's just making matters worse. This is beyond acceptable. It's beyond belief. I mean, if I wasn't living through it and you were telling me about this, I wouldn't believe it. But there it is. I mean, what more needs to be said? The bill is so bad, the program is so horrible that every other week or every other month, Obama has to come out with a way to change it. Just scrap the whole thing. Let us go back to what we had before and be done with it. Those who get subsidies from the health insurance Obamacare forces them to buy aren't necessarily better off than they were without Obamacare. It could easily be the case, explains David Henderson, this is the Insider Online blog, that the value of their health insurance plan is worth far less than the subsidized price a person has to pay. Defenders of Obamacare often claim that the purpose of insurance is to pool risks so that a low-risk purchaser will pay to subsidize a high-risk purchaser. But that's not true. Insurance works by pooling like risks. That's why young single men pay more for auto insurance and old men pay more for life insurance. Those most likely to use a program, those most likely to make a claim should be paying more than those who are less likely to make a claim. That's why young drivers are a higher risk, so therefore they should be paying a higher premium. Better drivers are a lower risk, so therefore they should be paying a lower premium. But the way the Obamacare is set up, it reverses all this and makes those with the least likely risk pay for those with the most likely risk. Under Obamacare, insurers cannot legally set insurance premiums for young people that are less than a third of what they charge the elderly. This is in spite of the fact that covered expenses for the elderly are typically much more than 3 times the covered expenses for the young. So just as in the case of pre-existing conditions, part of the family's insurance premium covers expenses for a higher risk group. And the people getting the government subsidy are likely to be disproportionately young because younger people have, on average, lower incomes than older people. Finally, many people will value some required coverages at or close to zero. A young family in which the husband has had a vasectomy or the wife has had a tubal ligation, in other words, they're unable to have children, Under Obamacare, they must pay for insurance that covers pregnancy. Why? They don't need it. Obama says you have to have it. Also, even people with no children must pay for pediatric dental care. Why? Because Obama says so. Obamacare requires a number of other coverages, including tests that the insurance company must pay for with zero copayment from the insured. In other words, you go for a test, it's free to you, but somebody has to pay. The insurance company will need to price the policy higher for all these coverages. In other words, they're going to pass the price on down to you through higher premiums. If our hypothetical family does not place much value on these tests or services, then it's paying something for almost nothing. In other words, we're going to be paying for things we don't need, and we're not allowed to buy just what we do need because under Obamacare's new laws, those policies are inadequate. This one-size-fits-all, you must pay for maternity care and pediatric care, whether you have a risk of, whether you're an old couple that's not going to have any children, your children are grown, but you got to pay anyway. And it's going to be disproportionately adjusted so that the young people are going to pay for those at higher risk. The low-risk people who are not going to need coverage are going to be paying for those who use it all the time. And, of course, those who get subsidies that aren't paying a premium at all are most likely to continue to use the service because, hey, they're not paying anything. It doesn't cost them anything, so they have no need to save or try to save costs. They're just going to keep running up the costs. And the young people's premiums and those that aren't using the policy are going to pay more and more and more and more. Such is the world of Obamacare. And to top it all off, New York Times reports that 1 in 5 who signed up for Obamacare failed to make their first payment, meaning they're not really covered by Obamacare. I'll be right back.
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people. Connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Welcome back to View from the Nest. Scott here. Only a few minutes remain in this broadcast, and I want to get this last item in. Obama's war on coal. What could possibly go wrong? The Washington Free Beacon headline read, "Report coal power plant shutdowns to accelerate." Industry workers blame Obama EPA for layoffs as company retire larger coal-fired plants. Key factor in those retirements is a new Environmental Protection Agency regulation on emissions of toxins from coal-fired power plants, known as the Mercury and Air Toxic Standards. It is expected to dramatically increase financial pressure on the coal sector. Add to this the equation news reports from earlier in the winter that many utilities were struggling to meet the demand for electricity due to the cold weather. As the nation's ability to generate electricity diminishes, demand for power continues to increase, taxing the electrical grid in ways our nation has not seen in generations. So, bundle up, because it's going to get cold out there, global warming and all. And since there's a reduction in electricity production through the closing of these coal-fired plants, what are we going to power their smart cars with? This has been a View from the Nest. Thank you for stopping by. If you'd like to visit us, surf on over to www.eagleviews.org or like us on Twitter @EaglesNest. Until next time, this is Alan Scott. Good day.
Exit stage right!
And that's all, folks.
This has been a View from the Nest. The statements, comments, or opinions expressed are solely that of the author and do not represent the views or opinions of this site or any affiliates thereof.